Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. It is so great to see you here. Welcome to Staying Healthy Through the Holidays. I am thrilled that it doesn't feel like that outside today. It's very nice and warm. If you haven't gotten out for some healthy motion, make sure you do it. You can walk while you're listening this evening. A little bit about kind of why I decided to start these webinars. It was a multi-factor decision, but the biggest being that there are so many health tips and tricks and ways to stay healthy long term that just cannot be captured in enough Instagram reels or a few minutes during an appointment. And I don't feel like health should be limited to those who come in for appointments. So I really wanted to open this up to anyone who had any sort of health goals or just wanted to stay on track throughout the holiday season. We should have a pretty small group. I think less than 20 people are in the actual live version. I will be recording it as well. So if you know anyone who has goals for the holiday season or going into the new year at the end, if you're like, hey, this would really benefit them, let me know. I can get the recording so you can pass that along. I brought a little PowerPoint with me, so I'll be using that throughout the presentation. What we're going to do is we're going to go through kind of some tips, some tricks, some evidence-based practices that we like to integrate. And then there will be time for a question and answer at the end. If you have specific questions, I anticipate that a lot of them will be answered, but if you're coming here and you're like, there's something I have to know, drop it in the chat and I'll try to tie it in wherever it applies best. If not, we'll circle back around to it at the end. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. We're going to see which screen it shares to. All right. Should be this one. Oh, perfect. Okay. Craig, I can see you. If you can see my screen, give me a thumbs up. Okay, perfect. I'm going to put it in presentation mode so it looks pretty. Full screen. All right, so this is staying healthy through the holidays. I'm going to try to switch it over actually to this other screen so it doesn't look like I'm constantly looking away from you guys. Let's try it again. All right, we're good. It says it's still sharing. Okay, perfect. So this is brought to you by Freedom Medical Center. No, I'm not going to try to sell you anything today. If you want an appointment, let our office know. This is very it applies to everybody. You don't have to be doing medical weight loss or even have weight loss goals to be here. My name is Kayla Huffman. If you don't know me, I'm a nurse practitioner. Freedom Medical Center is a medical weight loss, IV therapy, and health optimization clinic. I love what I do, and I feel so blessed to be able to partner with people in their health, whether it is during an appointment or where we're at now in a Zoom call. So thank you for being here. It warms my heart. I have some true or false statements because I think they're fun and I like to kind of question our knowledge a little bit. So true or false, the weight gained over the holiday season is typically lost by February. Do you think that's true? Everybody's got heads, thumbs up. Okay. You can put it in the chat too. I can't really see the chat, but we'll look at it later. The average holiday meal contains about 1,000 calories and 30 grams of sugar. True or false? I can see all the thumbs. True, false. Okay. And people are 30% less active during the holiday season. True or false? True. You guys are smart. All right, here are our answers. So the first one's actually false. I was a little surprised by that myself. What they found is that if you gain weight over the holiday season, you actually hold on to it forever and then gain more the following season, which was crazy to me, which made this whole presentation a lot more important in my eyes. Most people are gaining a couple pounds over the holiday. That was actually less than I thought it was. I was anticipating maybe 5 to 10 pounds, but regardless, 2 pounds over 5 holidays is 10 pounds, and that's a lot. Second is false. The average holiday meal can actually contain over 3,000 calories, and 229 grams of fat. That's one meal. I thought it was crazy. And then you guys were right about all the physical activity. We do decrease 30%, which I also thought was interesting. I thought there might be a little bit of an increase, but people are busy and they're shopping and doing all the holiday things and not making as much time for movement as they typically do. So I would love to know, and I'm going to try to figure out a way to look at the chat again. What are your health goals for the holidays? And they don't have to be weight loss. They could be to gain muscle. It can be to decrease stress, create a new habit, kind of whatever is on your heart for the holiday season. You can type it in the chat. You can write it down, whatever you want to do. Because I think it's really important to have those goals identified. Because if you know what you're going after, you're going to be able to say, yes, I did it, or at least have some sort of game plan in place to really see that change, or at least not go backwards, right? And have some purpose in that. Okay, so we got some weight loss, some maintenance. Okay. Oh, you can draw on my screen? That's interesting. To say no, Heather, we're going to talk about that. What are we saying no to? Do you know? You can type that in there. Oh, how do we stop the drawing on the screen? I don't know how to make it go away. Magic. Thanks, Craig. All right. So one of the things that I think is really important, like we were talking about, is to have a game plan. And yes, Phyllis, to be able to celebrate in moderation. That is one of the highlights of this. You're going to love everything we're talking about. Okay, so throughout this PowerPoint, we're going to talk about weight loss, specifically navigating conversations, because that's a lot of it during those social events. If you are trying to maintain or lose weight or not gain, you're going to be having conversations with people because they're going to be like, why are you eating the pumpkin pie? And then we'll have Q&A at the end. My disclaimer is if something doesn't apply to you, eat the meat, spit out the bones. This is kind of generalized. Even though it should be applicable to most people, there may be specific things that don't apply to you. All right, so this is the slide that we talk about planning ahead. There's a saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and that could not be more true in the health world. Anytime you have a goal, we need to have steps in place so that we can be really successful. These are the ones that have worked best for me. Some of them are science-backed, and we'll kind of talk through those. The one that I've noticed just helps is either to offer to bring something or to host yourself. That way you can be in full control of the menu, which tends to be very effective because then you can control your environment much more than you can if you go somewhere else. Now, if you are not hosting, that's fine too. It's a lot of mess to clean up and a lot of prep to do. So good for you. And I would encourage you to bring a plate of something that aligns with your health goals. If you see this picture, this is my daughter, Ashley. We made a veggie cherry turkey. I think this was 2 years ago, maybe. But she likes to make them every year, and it was so fun and just really different, and it totally aligned with all our health goals and gave the kids and the adults something fun and healthy to eat, because when there's all these carbs and sugars and things, we've really got to get some vegetables in, and this was a really fun way to do it. Hydration cannot be stressed enough. A lot of our hunger is actually thirst. That hydration can start before the party or the event. If you're well hydrated going into it, so let's say your goal is 64 ounces of water. If you go to that party and you've already drank 40 to 60, because the party's in the evening or whatnot, you're going to be a lot less hungry. You're going to have a lot less cravings. It's going to be a lot easier to, we call it stop challenge 2. So stop, think about, is this worth it? Is it not worth it? And then choose whether or not you're going to eat it. And some things may be totally aligned with your goals and you can eat all the turkey, but some things we might want to eat in moderation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. pre-gaming, but a little different than the alcohol kind. If we pre-game with protein, it's going to do that same thing as the water and really decrease our appetite and cravings during that party or the event. If you think about protein, it one of the things that it does is it really decreases the cravings and it increases what we call satiety, which is how full you feel. That's one of the ones as well as the water that is evidence and practice based, so super science backed. With the water, just circling back to that, the other thing that we recommend is to hold a bottle of water in your dominant hand. It'll make it harder for you to decide, hey, I'm going to grab this without thinking about it. There's a lot of mindless eating that can happen in the holidays. So if you have a bottle or a glass of water in that dominant hand, it's going to be a lot easier to recognize when you're going to grab for something. Crowding out is another tool that I like to use. So it's basically the order in which I eat things. And especially in the holiday season, I'm going to eat my veggies first and then my protein or vice versa, and then move on to the things that I want to eat in smaller portions because at that point I'm going to be more full. If you think you never want to go to the grocery store hungry, think about these events the same way. Some people will just not eat until that event and then they'll eat a whole bunch there. I would challenge you to try to eat throughout the day. Like I said, pre-game with protein, make sure you're getting your veggies in even before you go. And it's going to make it a lot easier to stick with your goals while you are there. Doing that in the break room, that's genius. I love it. And then if we think about, there's this rule, it's called the 2-bite rule. We're going to go over a couple rules. This is going to be the first one. And that's just the knowledge that the first 2 bites of anything you eat will give you more pleasure than the rest of them. So if there's something that you really want to indulge in or a few things you want to indulge in, you can consider just taking a couple bites, drinking some water, seeing if you still really want whatever the rest of that thing was. So if it was grandma's cherry pie, you eat a couple bites and you might realize, hey, that's all I need. And you give the rest to your kid or something like that. That's what I do. I give food away when I'm done with it, which is kind of germy, but my kids are trying to steal my food all the time. So it's just kind of our normal. And then giving away leftovers, it circles back to if you're hosting, sometimes you get stuck with all the food and then you eat not just one Thanksgiving meal, but 4 because you have leftovers for 4 Thanksgivings. If those leftovers are nowhere to be found, it's going to be a lot easier to pop right into those healthy habits right after you're done with that meal and done with that evening. Is everybody with me? Sometimes I talk kind of fast. Okay. Yes, husbands are good for that too. Okay, this rule, I swear, is the one that has really carried me throughout my health journey, especially when I'm in times where, there's some times that I'm really happy with where I'm at. I'm much more focused on how I'm feeling, and I don't really care as much if I like indulge a little bit. But there are other times where I'm trying to stick really closely to my health goals because I'm in a funk mentally, falling out of whack, falling out of habits, whatnot, and I'm trying to be really strict and really clear about what I'm eating and what I'm not eating. This is the rule that helps me in those times when I'm trying to stay right on track for whatever reason. It's called the 10-second rule. So what they found, science has found that the first 10 to 20 seconds while you're eating something, you're getting the most reward from it. And that's actually when it starts declining. So even if it's taking you a while to eat a piece of cake or something like that, you're really getting the most reward in that first 10 or 20 seconds. And that feel-good feeling doesn't scientifically last for hours. That feeling of like, oh my gosh, that chocolate cake is so good. It's that dopamine release that really lasts a short time. I always thought it lasted a really long time. It doesn't. And when I'm thinking, am I going to eat something? Am I not going to eat something? I think, is it worth feeling really great for 20 seconds? And sometimes it is like I get a funnel cake once a year. If we're being really honest, that's what I do, but I only do it once a year. And it's worth feeling really great for 10 seconds and then not feeling great for the rest of the evening. But if you're like, you know what? I can get a mocha frappuccino latte with extra caramel any day for the next year from Starbucks, then it might be worth it to just say no. It's not worth the 10 seconds. It'll be there for the rest of my life should I choose to have it at some point. It's up to you. I can't make those decisions for you, but I will tell you that the cleaner that you eat, whether it's the holiday season or not, the better you're going to feel. And it's gonna be easier to continue to eat healthy. Our, I'm making sure nobody's in the waiting room. Our taste buds actually change every, I'm thinking 14 days. And after 14 days of eating really healthy, you're going to start to crave healthier things. So again, that's where this 10-second rule really plugs in, because is it worth going off what my plan was for that 10 seconds, or is it worth helping my taste buds to create different patterns of memory and different things to taste good? It's normally the latter. These are different things that you can use to implement the 10-second rule, such as mindful eating. So slowing down, that way that dopamine response spreads out, which decreases this craving cycle. It'll really help because your brain's constantly going to look for more dopamine. So it's going to say, hey, eat more chocolate, eat more chocolate, eat more chocolate, to keep that dopamine up, to keep that 10 seconds going. And then eating balanced meals. So when we're eating protein, fiber, healthy fats, it's going to regulate our blood sugar, and you'll have longer lasting satisfaction that way. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but I think our world is so centered around food, especially like if you think about it, growing up, a lot of us said, hey, if you're really good at school, if you get an A on that test, I'll get you some ice cream, I'll get you some candy, I'll whatever. And we've made it a reward system. And so learning to replace those rewards is really, really, really powerful. So now it's a little more expensive, but if I am trying to do something really hard, I'm like, if I do really well on this, maybe I'll go get a pedicure or something like that instead of an ice cream. But there's a ton of different ways you can do that. That's just one example. Probably 3 ways too. This is my gobble wobble thing. They're turkeys. That's the best I got with them racing. This is talking about memories and movement. I love the holidays, but I realize that it is so centered around food. And if we can take the focus off of what's the menu going to look like and put it on to the people we're going to get to spend time with and the memories we're going to make, it really can help our mindset around the holidays. I've been guilty of, I can't wait for the XYZ on Thanksgiving, and maybe that's true and that's fine, but we really I feel like we take away from some of the relationships sometimes, and we're so worried about the food that's going to be there, we forget like, hey, this is actually just about the people, not the food. So just shifting that mindset and realizing that there are other things to do besides the meal. So yes, have a beautiful meal. The nice thing about Thanksgiving is there's a ton of healthy options. Like turkey is really healthy for you. Throw some salad and some green beans with it, and you're right on track. But there's also activities. So you'll probably look a lot better racing than these turkeys. And sign up for some sort of race, or there's pickleball. My family likes to do top golf, which there's some sitting in that, but it's really fun and active. I thought about this close the ring challenge you could do with your watches. I think in some families it could get a little crazy, but you could see who can close their rings on the Apple Watches on Thanksgiving. There's this other concept. I don't know if anyone else has heard of it. It's called snacking on exercise. They're finding that when we're craving something, our body's looking for, again, that dopamine response. And if we do some exercise, it can be really quick, like 5 wall push-ups or something like that, it releases the dopamine and it can decrease cravings. Same with drinking a glass of water. So you can consider trying snacking on exercise, see if it works for you. This is an interesting conversation, one that I've had with a lot of people going through a health journey of any kind, always around this time of year. And these are the well-meaning conversations. Have you ever, and you can raise your hand or pop it in the chat, have you ever been on a health journey and someone who loves you so much says, "You are perfect the way you are. Eat the chocolate, enjoy it. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine." So I've experienced that. Yeah. So they're trying to save us. They are so well-meaning that they want to be like, "You are wonderful the way you are. Eat whatever you want, indulge, it's fine." And it is if we're thinking about how we're looking. But when we think about how that food's gonna make us feel, things start to go a little different direction. And that can be emotionally how it makes us feel when we know we're going off track with our goals, but it can also be physically. For example, if I eat a whole bunch of carbs, I am going to be asleep in 30 seconds and I'm not going to enjoy the rest of the day with my kids. I'm going to be just trying to stay awake if I can even do that. So when somebody tells me, "Hey, why aren't you eating the chocolate cake or the dinner rolls or something like that?" I say, "Hey, if I eat that, I'm gonna be asleep in 30 seconds." It happens at work all the time because they like to bring in donuts and sugary things, and I say, "It won't make me feel good, and I wanna be able to show up well for the rest of the day." I think that is one of the most powerful things that you can tell somebody in the holiday season is shifting it from how it'll make you look to how it'll make you feel. And I tell people this all the time. Like, this weight loss thing, it is not about looking like a supermodel in a bikini. It is about being able to get on the floor and play and get with kids or do whatever the fun things you want to do are and be able to get back up and keep going and have the energy to get through the day and to have the muscle to protect you long term. And I think when we start shifting that conversation, then people are going to be very supportive instead of trying to rescue you and end up sabotaging you. That's my soapbox on that one. Same thing with alcohol. If you want to drink a little alcohol, drink a little alcohol. But if you don't, then have that conversation like, "Hey, it'll make me feel really rough and I have things to do tomorrow." My favorite saying is, "Nothing tastes as good as healthy feels," and it is so true. None of us are ever going to be perfect all the time, but if we can keep that thought process in the front of our minds, it can really make it easier to make not just a short-term diet, but long-term lasting changes. And then I touched on this earlier, but remembering that the holidays are maybe 3 to 6 meals if we're really counting, a couple for Thanksgiving, maybe a couple for Christmas, maybe, and a couple for New Year's. But we tend to say, "Hey, I can't make any changes over these next 45 or 60 days because of the holidays." And I think the fact that you guys are all here means that you're crushing that belief, and I'm so excited for you. And I would encourage you to pass that along to those around you that there is still hope for health, even during a holiday season. Because even if we went and ate those 3,000 calorie meals for 3 to 6 meals, which I don't encourage anyone to do, you will feel horrible. But even if you do that, you still have hundreds, I didn't do the math, but of other meals in between. So yeah, take that for what it is. Some food for that. No pun intended. I didn't have this slide in here until about 4:45, but it's the question I get asked a lot is about supplements. So I thought I would pop in here if we're going, how do we feel our best in the holiday season? There's a few that I think are really good. If you're struggling with weight loss and you want to curb the cravings, I feel like is a really good option. And these are ones that if you have questions about them, talk to me about it later. It's not going to be something that you're going to need if you're on the weight loss shots. Magnesium, if you're not on that already, it's one of my favorites. It's going to help you with sleeping well, which can be a struggle during the holidays. Constipation, which when you're eating different foods can also be a struggle. Headaches, again, stress, not eating enough, not drinking enough, all those holiday things. It'll help with all of that. And then a really good multivitamin we have is Mitacor, so that's an option. If you need a good cleanse, let me know. And then we have these LMNT things. You can get them online too. It's one of my favorites. They're electrolytes and they have magnesium, potassium, and salt in them, and they can really give you energy if you are salt deficient. So just some things to think about, some supplements. If you have questions about them, I'm happy to go through those later. So wrapping up, what did anyone have like takeaways or anything that they were surprised about? This is kind of an open floor for a second.
I love to treat yourself with something other than food. I my guilty pleasure sometimes over the holidays is pancakes, waking up to pancakes because I never get to eat them and my husband will make them. But to treat myself with a good after Christmas shop or something, if I, you know, indulging in Christmas sales rather than indulging in pancakes might be fun.
How flexible are you with your pancakes? If I gave you like a couple recipes, would you like to try them?
Oh, sure. I
Okay.
will. I'll take pancake recipes for
One of my
sure.
friends just sent me, and I haven't looked at the macros on it, but I will look at them. They're a pumpkin protein pancake.
Oh, wow.
And I know there's a lot of protein pancakes out there. So I'm gonna write your name down and I'm gonna look at the recipe and I'll try to shoot you over some.
Love it. Thank you.
And those like easy substitutes are really fun too. Sometimes you don't realize how simple it is to just replace what you love in the first place. But I'm glad that was helpful for you.
No, thank you.
Heather says, treat yourself and celebrate in other forms. It's such a same thing other than food. It is such a culture that we have. Such a culture. I grew up that way.
What is the core restore?
It is you could do 7 or 14 day cleanse. I love it. I was in just this funk. I was craving a lot of sugar. I just didn't feel great. I did it by day 4. I felt really good. You don't have to fast, but basically it's a orthomolecular cleanse and it has um core restore in it, so like a protein shake and some vitamins that just help cleanse everything out. And it's not a fasting. You can fast the first 2 days, which I did. You don't have to. And then it's just eating a lot of really clean foods and you feel really good. So if you do go a little off balance over the holidays, or if you're like, I want to try to kick all the cravings before they even start, that might be a good option. It's a really good liver detox, is what it's great for too. Judy says she likes the 2-bite rule. It seems empowering. I do too. Because sometimes the restriction makes you want it more, right? Sometimes mentally, if we say, I'm not going to eat anything, it's like if you say, don't think about an elephant, all you're going to think about is the elephant, right? And then you're like, I'm going to eat everything. Smaller plates is another really tricky thing. And green plates, they did a study that if you eat on a green plate, you're less likely to indulge. Hydration, Tony. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's such a simple thing, but I struggle with it a lot of days. You guys know the trick on that. I tried to say tip and trick at the same time. It wasn't working. The first thing you eat or the first thing you drink or eat in the day, you'll crave a little bit more throughout the day. So a lot of people will start their day with coffee. If you just drink 8 ounces of water before the coffee, it'll make it easier to get the water in throughout the day. That is science backed. I don't know who founded it, but I like the um, conversations. That's good. Any other questions, thoughts? No? Okay. Giveaway. So I thought, you know what? You guys are showing up for this weird thing that I just came up with out of nowhere. We should do some sort of giveaway. So here's what we're going to do. If you are not currently a client and you want a free in-body scan, you can call our office. Tony's on here. So let Tony know you are here and she'll get you scheduled for that free in-body. If you are a current client, we'll do 50% off a supplement. So when you come in next time, let me know which one you want 50% off of. And remind me because I'll forget what you're talking about. But I will write it down. So I really do appreciate the support and coming today. I thought that there was a lot of value that could be had, and I want to make this kind of a more regular thing. Up next, we're going to do something about mental wellness through the holidays. I'm working on an exact date for that. I think Tammy is going to join us. She is our health coach. I feel like the holidays is a season that, physical health may be a little easier to prioritize than mental health. I was going to try to tackle that today, but I thought that might make this go 4 hours instead of 45 minutes. So I wanted to respect your time. We're going to cut it into a different Zoom. And we already did a lot of Q&A. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay. I'm going to stop my screen. One last thing before you leave. If you are a client, you know that one of my passions is to pray for health and wellness and all those things. So if you are not into that, feel free to log off. Thank you so much for coming. But if you would like to pray together, I will lead us in prayer. After some water because I can't breathe. I'm getting over bronchitis for those of you who don't know. God, thank you so much for bringing us together and giving us so much information and science and tools to be able to treat our bodies like the temple that you created them to be. And thank you for giving us grace when we don't get things quite right because we're humans and we might try our best and still fall short. And that's why we thank you so much for Jesus and for sending a savior so that we have that grace. And we just thank you so much for the relationships and the people that you've put in our life that really make the holiday season special. And we ask you to bless our health and our family's health in every way, not just in weight loss, but in breakthrough. We ask you to heal the sick and give peace to the people who are struggling this holiday season with anything, with loss, with grief, with illness. We just ask you to be so present with them and to fill their hearts with your comfort and your peace and help us to get to know you better in this holiday season. We love you so much. In your name we pray. Amen. All right. Thanks, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. I hope it is wonderful for everybody.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes me so happy.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Thank you, Kayla.
You're welcome. Have a happy holiday.